If you ask me what kind of games are my favorite, my answer, hands down, without a doubt, would be survival horror. I don't know why, but to me, survival horror games have a style all their own, with just enough substance to satisfy those who aren't hardcore horror fanatics, and those who adore a good scare, tied together with some quality gameplay like myself. Today, horror games are entering into something of a new renaissance for the genre. Games like Alien Isolation, Outlast, and Until Dawn have shown that the genre is not only alive and well, but is an open canvas for creativity and evolution. And if there's one game that's managed to find that perfect balance of scares and gameplay, it's Shinji Mikami's second full-blown masterpiece, The Evil Within. Straight from the father of survival horror himself, the creator of Resident Evil, and my personal favorite game of all time, Resident Evil 4, The Evil Within is a true survival horror masterpiece, and one of the most challenging games that I have ever played. The Evil Within works on so many levels, one of which being that the game is perfectly balanced. Shinji Mikami knows how the genre works better than anyone. In fact, it was his own innovation that took Resident Evil 4 from what could have been another tired, archaic affair, and turned it into a game that changed the very foundation of video games. Though I will admit that even though Resident Evil 4 isn't very scary, it's unbelievably well balanced because it knows how to make you feel helpless while also making you feel like a survivor after every strenuous encounter. Adding more action to the horror, when done right, can heighten the gameplay, but too much action can dampen the experience. Resident Evil 5 and 6 are prime examples of this. Even a series like Dead Space, which started out promising enough, eventually forgot its horror roots and became a straight-up action series. In fact, Mr. Mikami himself stated that his lack of faith in recent horror games is what prompted him to make a return to the genre he created. Mr. Mikami wanted to make a game where you were always on edge, always worried if you were going to survive. A game where ammo was as precious as gold, and surviving from one area to another was something of a visceral celebration for the player. In other words, he wanted to make a true survival horror game, one that you would not only be terrified to play, but be compelled to play. And it was more than a welcome return for the father of survival horror himself. The game begins one dark and stormy night, as Detective Sebastian Castellanos and his partners are sent to investigate a mass murder at a local mental asylum. Once inside, Sebastian is sedated and captured by a mysterious phantom-like being named Ruvik. Once awakened, Sebastian finds himself in a world where nightmares are real, ghouls and creatures walk among him, and everything that walks, stalks, or hunts wants to kill you. Where are you? Where did these creatures come from? What happened to your friends? Who is Ruvik and why did he bring you here? Will you be able to save your friends? Or more importantly, yourself? And the way you survive is impeccably balanced. Like I said before, the only way survival horror truly works is if you get that balance down right. You want to feel helpless, but never too helpless. You want to feel like a total badass, but never invincible. Put simply, you want to feel like you're surviving the horror. At first, the combat can be pretty difficult because your weapons aren't very powerful and every enemy takes like a million shots to kill. Not to mention that if you don't know how to spend your ammo or manage your health, they get comfortable for that game over screen, because let me tell you, you're going to be seeing it a lot. It can get insanely hard at times, and even I'll admit that I label the game as being fuck ridiculous hard on my first playthrough. But once I learned how to manage my inventory, know which enemies to take down and how, it all clicked. You do have guns, but this game isn't meant to be a straight up shooting gallery ripped from Resident Evil 4 or 5. This one requires a little bit more strategy, and using your wits can be just as powerful as any weapon in the game. When possible, stealth is key. Sometimes it's better to sneak around each ghoul and stab their skulls than it is to dust them with your at first weak arsenal. Oh, it also helps to burn your enemies after killing them, just to make sure they don't come back to dust you off. They don't spring back to life too often, but when they do, they are just as annoying to deal with. As I mentioned before, you do have a small arsenal at your beck and call, but the game never gives you more than you need to survive, and that's both a brilliant and stubborn design move on Mikami's part. You start off the game with a standard revolver, and then eventually find a shotgun, a rifle, a magnum, and probably the most innovative weapon in the game, the Agony crossbow. which you can outfit with many different arrows for specific attacks, such as freezing a crowd of enemies, blowing dudes up, blinding a group of ghouls, and electrocuting them to death. The crossbow is more than just a lifesaver. It's a perfect way to control the crowd and bring balance to the already brutal combat. Speaking of which, ammo for weapons is scarce, and when I say scarce, I mean it's as precious as gold. Right from the start, you're already pretty light on ammo, and even when you upgrade your arsenal and can carry more, you're still gonna find yourself short on bullets and health from time to time. But that's the genius thing about the Evil Within. Unlike Resident Evil 1 and 4, you don't get an item box to drop and collect your supplies, or an expansive case to manage your inventory. You get just enough to survive. And that's the key phrase there. Just enough. But hold on there, things aren't so daunting. In between levels, you can fast travel to an alternate version of the asylum, where you can upgrade a multitude of skills to help you survive. And like Mr. Mikami's survival horror masterpiece Resident Evil 4, the level customization is great. Green gel, or some of my friends refer to it as brain juice, is your currency in this nightmare of a world. And once you've collected enough, you're free to decide which skill, perk, or weapon you'll upgrade. Should you invest in some extra pocket space or a few more bullets? Or should you upgrade your gun capacity? Or do you hold out for the chance of finding more gel to buy more upgrades? It's really something to think about, because if you don't upgrade wisely, it's not going to be long before you get your ass handed to you again and again and again. The Evil Within is tough, but it's that good kind of tough, where even though you'll die enough to get pissed off, you gotta keep playing because you can't let the game win. The boss battles are especially tough, as some require a little more thought than just unloading on them with your guns. For example, the Laura boss battle requires you to set her ablaze by using the environment to your advantage, as shooting her with your gun is a great way to lose precious ammunition. The Keeper boss battle is hands down one of the most unique boss battles in the game, as you can never truly kill him because he can resurrect himself indefinitely until you can escape his lair. Yeah, pretty tough. As far as the horror aspect goes, The Evil Within might be a terrifying game for new gamers, but for me, the game is never truly terrifying so much as it is tense. And the game is never more tense than those few moments where you have to fight off huge crowds of enemies with very little ammo and resources. These moments are a great throwback to Resident Evil 4's classic showdowns, and these aren't the only reference to the Resident Evil series. The first creepish ghoul you encounter is a great little nod to the first zombie scene in the original Resident Evil. And in one chapter, you make your way out of the woods only to find yourself in a spooky mansion where inside you have to fight off ungodly horrors, cheat death, and solve puzzles. If you can't tell me what game this is, then I don't think you and I could be friends. Okay, I think I've said enough. The point is this: The Evil Within is by no means the king of the survival horror genre. The crown still belongs to Resident Evil 4, but it's a pretty close second. The challenge may be daunting, but it's also incredibly rewarding and wholly satisfying. And once you unlock New Game Plus, there's always incentive to play it again. Even if this is Mr. Mikami's final foray into the survival horror genre, it's an amazingly beautiful and terrifying note to go out on. All I can say is, thank you, Mr. Mikami, thank you. You and your life's work will always have my undying gratitude. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon.